Hey guys, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris and I just got done watching Doctor Sleep. With Doctor Sleep, it is essentially a sequel to The Shining, following Danny Torrance, played by Ewan McGregor, decades after his horrible night at the Overlook Hotel. He's finally seeming to piece together his life until he encounters a little girl who shares the same gift he does. Together, they'll discover a world they never knew they were a part of. That's all pretty much it without giving any spoilers to you guys. This is a spoiler-free review. Now, with Doctor Sleep, I gotta be completely honest, I had no idea what I was getting myself into going in. I knew it was a sort of sequel to The Shining, but the biggest reason Doctor Sleep didn't captivate my attention was because the trailers were so bland, so ominous on what this movie really was about, and I just really was not interested at all, and I came out absolutely loving this movie and are a fan of this world Stephen King created. I really am surprised with how much I ended up enjoying this movie, being really captivated by the story they were telling, the world they were building. A lot of that has to do to Mike Flanagan, who, oh my god, I'm looking at his IMDb page just to get some idea of what this guy's previous work was, and he's directed some of the best horror movies in recent years. Oculus, Hush, Before I Wake, Ouija Origin of Evil, and Gerald's Game. All those really solid horror movies that it's no wonder I ended up liking this movie as much as it was. Some things I definitely want to get off my chest right off the bat to warn you guys. Do not expect this to feel or even give you the same emotions that you got when watching The Shining. This is a completely different movie. I think some people might leave the theater or confused during the watch of this movie going, isn't this connected to The Shining? I don't get it. This is nothing like The Shining. This movie really takes a whole different turn. I compare this movie a lot to like Prometheus and the Alien franchise, where you had the Alien franchise, where that was a movie about a monster going after a group of people, a really classic, masterful horror movie. And then Prometheus took that one element of Alien and explored the mythology, bringing you people like the engineer and other characters you never knew existed responsible for these aliens. Doctor Sleep is that for The Shining. It takes one element of The Shining, that is Danny's character, his special gift, The Shining, and explores the entire mythology behind that. And it is interesting. It's a little rough to get into at first, but once this movie explains the rules, why these people exist, how their powers work and are implemented into their daily lives, this is kind of like a horror superhero movie. Ewan McGregor absolutely is perfect as Danny in this movie. Very likable character, and you only appreciate more the depth he brings into the character of Danny. But I have to admit, and sorry, I'm gonna butcher her name, Kylia Curran, who plays the little girl in this movie that Ewan McGregor's character sort of mentors, absolutely is a show stealer. When screen time is given to her and her character as at her full maximum shining powers, you completely root for her, admire her. The characters they build up here, you really fall in love with. I have a hard time calling this a horror movie because I'll be honest, there aren't that many horror elements in it. It's more of a thriller. That's not to say there are some horrifying things that surprised me that actually happened that they hid from the trailers, because I thought this was going to be a very tamed, studio generic horror movie, but there are things in here that shocked me, surprised me, even scared me, along with also touching upon some of the mysteries of The Shining and kind of lifting that curtain, explaining what happened all those years at the Overlook Hotel. Is a risky thing to do, but the movie manages to do it in a way without ruining how magnificent The Shining was. I really am absolutely surprised with how much I enjoyed this movie. If I had to touch upon a few things I could have done without, for one, only thing I think that really connects this to like The Shining in terms of tone is the pacing. This movie is very slow going. At times it even feels like it's dragging. The movie's 2 hours and 30 minutes long, and you do sort of feel it. And this is a movie that gets better and better as you watch it, because I'll admit, for the first maybe 30 minutes, close to the 40 minutes, I was like, I don't know if I'm really getting into this. And then the movie just turns to where you're on this ride and you're like, what's gonna happen? What's going on? It's not predictable at all unless you've read the book. Along with that, though, I mentioned this movie's kind of like a horror superhero film. When you get to the elements of people with the shining power and what they're capable of, they're very vague and the rules aren't always explained. When we do get to the final act, though, and I mean like towards the really last 10-15 minutes, it gets a little over the top. There's a lot of CGI used, there's unexplainable things that are happening. You kind of just have to roll with the punches because the movie is not taking the time to explain why certain things are happening and almost crosses that line of being goofy. But even with that stumbling ending and some of those dragging pace negatives, I think this is a great movie, and it sets up amazing mythology so that if this world was explored again with director Mike Flanagan on board, I'd be very interested to see where this goes. But I really caution you, don't expect The Shining. Think of this movie as a standalone and just appreciate when it mentions, reference, or connects to The Shining. For action in the film, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. There isn't that much action. You do have certain moments where characters are fighting one another, but it is very far and few in between. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars. This is more of a suspenseful thrill ride, so the jokes are very spread out as to keep the tone in line. Drama in the movie, I'm gonna give it 4 stars because I was so enthralled with the mythology they built up. I can't believe they took something so small from The Shining and built this incredible world that I think really has endless possibilities. Not to mention that the story is also very compelling. Horror in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars. Like I said, don't really think of this as a horror movie. It's more of a thriller, but there are horrifying sequences in here, and I definitely have to tip my hat off to those. And suspensive film, I am gonna give it 3 stars. There were some very suspenseful moments. It's just with that runtime of 2 hours and 30 minutes and the dragging pace, you lose your suspense, and the movie has to continuously keep building that up for you. Casual fans, I'm gonna give it a B-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it an A-. And critically, I'm going to give it a B+. For Dr. Sleep, I recommend you watch this in theaters. I keep saying it, but I was really surprised because the whole drive to the theater and sitting waiting for the movie to start, I was dreading it. I was like, I'm about to sit here for 2 hours and 30 minutes just not enjoying what I'm watching based off what I've seen from the trailers. And it was just so good that I'm still thinking about it. Let me know what you guys think about Dr. Sleep and if you'll be giving it a shot. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Film Review. As always, I'm Chris. Take care.